because I'm not seeing where to let them in.
Okay, just a second. It's a little early anyway. It's 2 minutes to go still.
Yeah, I was looking to see because I know on my iPhone it's a little bit different and I'm just not seeing it right now.
Okay, no worries. I can let people in.
All righty.
Yeah, I was just saying I like to say some words about how it's going to go. So
Yes.
would you like to
Would you
share?
like me to do that or you
Yeah.
do that? I definitely have words. Yes.
Yeah, do it right now so that we
Okay.
visualize how it's going to go.
Yes. So I see this as such a surprising opportunity to take something that is not something we study or know too much about, the spleen and what's possible with that, and how to really magnify the knowledge about how to incorporate this in our lives and to activate the spleen and allow it to heal, allow it to activate for us, allow it to be powerful, allow it to be really, really working with all the other organs in our lives, in our bodies. Such a part of the ecosystem that is so important, with the cleansing, with the refreshing, with the cleaning out, with the letting go, with the processing. Oh, it makes me cry to think of this in such a powerful way that we all can be using this in our lives. And so let it be, and let's bring it on.
Yeah, I see this as a beautiful session. Transmission works flawlessly, technology works flawlessly. Everything just flows and lands, and it's one of the most flowing and most like an all-encompassing sessions I've ever done online. And it feels
Oof.
so blessed, and I feel so blessed and privileged to be doing it, and so grateful for your grace and the way in which you're going to host this session is just
Mm.
add so much value to the content that's already coming through. With that, I'm ready
Mm.
to integrate and open the rooms. Uh, so just give me a few.
Very good, very good. We are opening, open, to this Thursday or Friday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of us who are joining here tonight and today and this morning. And I am so grateful to be a part of this spleen event and the human miracle. Believe it or not, it's the 40th of 52. And we are going to be finding out the importance of the yes, of the essential aspect, the aha of the spleen in ways that I'm sure most of us have not ever thought of before. We are going to be getting the gift of the ability to cleanse, to heal, to allow the healing, the letting go, the letting in, the flow, and the spleen as a part of the ecosystem that we are, to really, really activate our new ability to move into our next sort of process in our world, in our life, and in our time right now, to be so much more of who we already are. And so I am Sunny Chase, and I'm very grateful to be here tonight. And I would like to give it over without any further ado to our fabulous and marvelous Mynoo Maryel, who's going to take us on a spleen journey.
Thank you, Sunny. I knew about the spleen as a tiny little dot of an organ, but didn't realize how important it is. So let's see what chooses to come through today.
Indeed, and let us all be ready to receive, because Mynoo was saying earlier that she feels this is a most essential and valuable gathering for us this evening. So let us sort of start with that idea, get our pens and our paper out, and get ready to write, get ready to roll, rock and roll and write, and receive.
Yes. So yeah, today we are going to discuss the 4 virtues of our spleen and how it impacts our innate ability to recuperate as well as regenerate and restore ourselves to full, vibrant vitality. So first of all, let's just understand, where is the spleen located? You know, it's it's located in the upper left region of your abdomen, so let me, so it's like sort of over here, upper left, but it's behind the stomach is where it is located. And it's behind the stomach, just underneath the diaphragm. So that's where it is located. It is a very soft purple organ, and it's like a little bit like a catcher's mitt, in baseball. It's that kind of a shape, and has a tiny little notch in the front, as if it's to catch something. It's that kind of an organ. They also sometimes talk about the spleen chakra, but that's because the spleen chakra and it's really the diaphragm. That region, the diaphragm and the spleen, is the solar plexus. I call it the solar plexus chakra, but that's the chakra that is referred to as the spleen chakra. And we're going to talk more about what it does. The fact that it is also associated with something called, the chakra system suggests that spleen not only is an integral part of our organ systems, it also plays a very vital role in our life force systems. So when we began the Human Miracle, we talked about us having three systems, the flow systems, the organ systems, and life force systems. Flow systems include the circulatory system, the endocrine system, the lymphatic system, systems that have got more of a pumping action, or have got certain ingredients that flow and enable our body to function. The organ systems are systems that are a collection of organs, and spleen comes in the organ systems. And the life force systems are those that enable the flow of life force, that chi or the prana that we talk about. So the chakra system, the meridian systems are all a part of that. Now, when I looked at this whole thing about the 4 virtues of spleen, it just like sits there, quite a tiny little organ, sort of very hidden. And what I'm learning with the Human Miracle series is there are no accidents. There's nothing casual about what's in our body. So the idea that there are some organs that can just be removed, like the appendix or the tonsils and stuff, is there's something very odd with that form of thinking. There's nothing accidental at all. So the first virtue is spleen is a Shiva and Shakti organ. So in the Hindu mythology, we talk about Shiv Shakti. So it is like a coming together of the masculine and the feminine. Shiv destroys with the intention of destroying that which no longer serves us, and Shakti has the power to create the new that is called for at any particular point in time. So spleen as the Shiv Shakti organ, it is a small organ, and it's a very important one, and it works really hard. And what is it working hard to do for us? It works hard, and what it's doing is it's fighting infections. It's removing the old, damaged blood cells and old debris that can create a little bit of a sludge and sluggishness, so that the fluid can start moving throughout our body. Many disorders and infections and injuries and diseases are caused by that sluggishness of the lack of movement of fluid. Increase in triglycerides in our bloodstream really create that sluggishness in how the blood can flow. Spleen plays a very important role in that. Spleen, not only does it remove the old and damaged blood cells, because remember, cells are dying and new ones are being birthed all the time. So there have to be organs that do that, that remove the old. And spleen has a very specific mantle to do that. Now, the fact that it is doing it with our blood cells, and the fact that it is doing it with our fluid, the sludge that prevents the fluid in our body to move, it is a very important organ that supports our flow systems. And where does disease reside? The disease, when it first sets in, always sets in the flow systems. And it has an impact. It shows up in the organs that are weakened due to emotional distress. So spleen is like our body angel, if you like. And how does it do that? How does it actually remove the dead blood cells or the debris? It has a very specific type of a filter system. And this filter system automatically keeps removing cellular waste. And as a result, the blood that can flow through our bodies can be the clean blood. So you may have, the many things that cause destruction of blood cells, as well as blood has fluid, so water, so it is a carrier. So it carries not only antibodies, it also carries infections and a whole variety of things that don't serve our body overall. Our body looking dehydrated, feeling dehydrated. A lot of the time, it's the accumulation of cellular waste that hasn't been able to move. So the spleen will filter it. It doesn't necessarily do the moving part. His job is to filter and create the clean fluid, generate the clean blood, and then what it has filtered out requires that flow and movement to occur for it to get out of our bodies. Mm-hmm. Now, there's so much of what I've talked about, which is all about flowing. So the physical aspect or physical role of the spleen is it's a filter that removes old dead blood cells. And the mental, the emotional, the mental aspect of it is, so when you have got sluggishness going on in your body and fluid isn't moving really well, there is a bit of lethargy that comes in. There's tiredness that sets in. It's like shortness of breath is there. It affects you mentally. The clarity of thought disappears. And emotionally, you start to feel burdened and you start to feel burdensome. And when you feel burdened or burdensome, what the direct impact it has is you don't feel like you're in your flow. So you get disconnected from the spirit of you. And it has a direct impact at how much you wish to interact with others. And when you do interact with them, how much in flow or rhythm you are with them. And that has a direct impact on your experience of that social interaction. So spleen, this tiny little thing, which is like a catcher's mitt, has all of these impacts that show up in such a huge way. And they have a direct impact on our quality of life. Spleen also emotionally, it suggests like a wrath release. And it's a release of latent or persistent malice. So when the spleen is working well and the filtering system is going well, what you're doing emotionally is you're releasing any latent malice or grudge that you may be harboring within you. And once that is released, you start seeking satisfaction because you're getting back into flow. That is the Shakti aspect. of the spleen. And in doing so, it purifies the blood in such a way that it enables you to fight infection. The emotion, there are different emotions that impact different organs of our body. The emotion that has a direct impact on the spleen is worry. Worry also has an impact on the stomach, pancreas, and that network of organs. Spleen is also considered to be an organ that is associated with the earth element, feeling grounded. So too much pensiveness or worry and insecurity, it has a direct impact on our ability to digest. We say we've got to feel like a knot in our stomach. It's not a knot in your stomach. It's a spleen that's become really tight. That mid is tightened. So things are not going through and being filtered. That's what that is. So when we are worried or in a state of anxiety, it often affects our digestive system. When we are unable to accept a life situation or a life event, it affects our digestive system. Spleen is the trigger of that. And it then communicates to its partner organ, which is the stomach. And it takes sweetness away, and the pancreas are also deactivated or hyperactivated. It's pretty fascinating for me to see the connection between this triad that exists in our body and how it impacts us. So I went through a bout of illness last week, as many of you know, in fact, all of you know. And what occurred was, I came back from Germany and it was wonderful, but one of the relatives actually had a really, really bad cough, cold, like high fever and stuff. And it was fine and nothing happened to me there in Germany. And when I got back to Dubai, I guess when you come home and you're really relaxing, then suddenly, the fever goes up and headache comes on and body pain comes on and all that stuff. And I was going to do the session on spleen, after I got back to Dubai, and I was not able to because I was just not well enough to do it last week. So I thought, okay, here I am. We're going to talk about the 4 virtues. And so why don't I use these virtues to support me, to restore myself? And when I went into my body, looking at what is the cause of so much body pain, which I don't experience pain as such and haven't done for many decades now. So I have a very low threshold. First, I thought I was sort of being a little bit overly sensitive, but when I went into my body, I could experience everything that I've said to you. There was so much sluggishness. The headache was such a colossal buildup of toxins that existed. And there's one particular business of mine that is having certain difficulties in it, where there was quite a lot of issues around trust and stuff being broken down. So even though I don't necessarily feel it, but it must have had an impact, so my spleen clearly, took all of that and started shutting down. So I could feel the flow of blood was very sluggish in my body, and the dryness, the scale of dryness I had on my skin, I had not seen for more than 2 decades. And it, like, my cuticles were like ripping. They were so dry, and they used to be like this 20 years ago, before I embarked on my spiritual awakening journeys. My feet looked sort of white and powdery because of how dry they were. I didn't know all of these connections. I just thought, okay, there's some stuff that is wanting to release. Clearly, my skin was starting to act very actively as toxin releasing system, which is an indicator that the kidneys and the liver are bunged up, and require some support and release. Now, I was very clear that with so much stuff that is already blocking me inside, I'm totally not going to go and even see a doctor, because they will prescribe antibiotics, because the sound of my cough was not very pleasing, and certainly a lot of painkillers and stuff. So I just, first of all, the first thing I did was frighten my family that, listen, this could be infectious. Nobody needs to come here and see me. I'm just going to be by myself. My sister still came to see me because she just couldn't believe that I had spent 2 weeks with photographs and videos with the kids, and I'm coming back and I'm in such a bad state. There has to be something seriously wanting support. So she did come to see me. And she said to me that when she came to see me, I was just sitting on the lounge chair, and she was there for about 4 hours or so. And I just had my eyes closed and I just wasn't engaging with her at all. So I decided that I'm really going to use what I'm going to share here as a way of implementing for myself and supporting myself through this, again, doing it without medicine. So I went into my body. I saw there was so much clogginess that was there, that the flow was directly impacted to such an extent that even I couldn't even rest properly. Even the restfulness was not that great. So the first thing I did was just really look at anywhere in my body that I held any pensiveness, any signs of worry, or if there was any insecurity of any kind. I literally did that stock take and just gave permission to my cells to release those. I would constantly reconnect to vast majority of my 124 trillion cells are actually free and fresh. So these pockets of worry can very easily be pricked and diffused. I just have to give permission for them to be released. I started looking at if there was any form of latent emotions that was surfacing, or any grudges. I didn't find any grudges in myself, but I could actually sense grudges in other people very easily. A lot of resentment is around in the world. So I literally released that empath type automatic absorption of worldly grudges or resentments. So I released myself from that. Now that took some pressure off my spleen. And then I gave permission for the Shiv energy to come in, to destroy all that doesn't serve. Now, when I did that, what I saw was I needed to take physical action, because there were many pathogens like bacterial infections and stuff, as well as a lot of fungus, because Germany equals fabulous breads and phenomenal honeys. So there was some buildup of stuff that I had eaten, which I don't normally eat, and had an impact on depleting my immune system. So I decided that, okay, my body is fevering up, which means it is heating up. It wants to literally burn off these pathogens. So the way I can support myself is to give myself additional fever. And that way I will be able to burn off these pathogens faster. So the way to do that is to dip your feet up to your knees, just underneath your knees, in very hot water, and keep it there for about 20 minutes. So I would put on one of my favorite videos, and I created like a small little tub within my bathtub and filled that up with hot water. And I just stood in it. After about 8 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes, your body starts sweating profusely. So I did that 3 times a day. I realized I'm supporting my spleen. So, that cold band that I talk about, where you can wrap it around your waist, I definitely did that. I did that 3 times a day, wrapping myself with that cold band. So the blood supply to this region of the triad of spleen, pancreas, and stomach was going to be very healthy and nourishing. And those organs are going to start returning and remembering their originating intent. And then it was important, as the debris was being removed, to support myself. And there's a non-violent way in which you do enema. So I did that twice a day to give that additional support for peristalsis in my large intestine, so my body, whatever was being released, could actually be released. At the same time, I knew huge amount of emotional and mental recalibration was taking place. Now, with all of this going on, I mean, there were like bouts where I would just feel so weak, and I had certain pieces of work that needed to be done in terms of the work I do with our business collective and things like that I needed to show up at. Whatever I could cancel, I canceled, or rescheduled. A couple of things I needed to show up at. So I had to really give myself that surge of vitality and in those times. So what was important for me is, okay, I have supported my body to destroy the pathogens, supporting it to release what is being destroyed. What is important is to support my body to replenish itself well. So the cold band activated the Shakti phenomenon, which is the power to create. So as the new cells that were being birthed by the spleen, they were well oxygenated. I did some very soft, gentle, regular, deep breaths to support that even further. And I had to look at what is it that I put into my body. I wanted to give my digestive system a complete rest. So it didn't need to process or figure anything out. So there were 2 things that became a staple for me at this time. One of those was pineapple tea. So I bought myself an organic pineapple. Really important it's organic, because you're going to eat this. You're going to actually use the skin as much as the fruit, soft flesh of the fruit inside. So I soaked it for 10 minutes or so in water, then washed it in running water, and then sliced it into chunks along with the whole skin, the spiny skin. You slice it up, and then you put it into a huge pan with water. Good quality water is great. I do have very good quality water, which is pH level 7 or 8 in Dubai. It's really great, pH level 8. So I fill it up with water. I added 2 pieces of cinnamon sticks and about 1.5 inches of ginger. And I boiled the whole thing for about 40 minutes. Once it came to a boil, I turned it down and I just kept boiling it for about 40 minutes. Now, the pineapple is very digestive anyway, the soft flesh, but the digestive enzymes in the skin, underneath the skin, in the spikes, in those crevices around the spike, are a whole different level altogether. There is nothing else that gives you that. If you have to have pineapple, you consume it in this way, as opposed to eating the soft fruit. I know if you enjoy the soft fruit, eat the soft fruit. But as a healing fruit, this is the way to consume it. And now once it was boiled for 40 minutes, I strained it up and literally threw away the rest. And that strained liquid became my pineapple tea. That was the herbal tea that I was sipping into. So it had the natural sweetness of the pineapple. It had all of these enzymes that had come in. Remember, when we cook vegetable or fruit without salt, the fruit or the vegetable absorbs the enzyme and the vitamins in it. When you cook it with salt, it releases all of that. So as a result, but the minerals remain still. So you still benefit from fruits and vegetables that are cooked with salt because the minerals still remain. But when you cook them without salt, it absorbs. You can sprinkle salt on the top if you want. I didn't do that. I just had the tea. And that was, I put it up in a big flask. This was my big flask that I worked with. It's huge and super ugly, but really great. And I just filled it up because I needed everything at arm's length because I just didn't know when I would be consumed by this, massive influx of tiredness, and I would just sip that tea. The other thing that was so magical, I mean, I just think spirit is, if you listen to your intuition, everything gets timed perfectly. And I've been looking for a solution to get good quality protein in terms of amino acids, good quality mix of amino acids. So that support me because as a vegan, it's not necessarily that straightforward. And I also have food intolerance with several of the usual nuts like walnuts, pistachio nuts, almonds, cashew nuts. So those nuts are not something that I have if I can avoid them. So I was looking for solutions. An Instagram reel popped up of someone, and it talked about wheatgrass, spirulina, and chlorella. Now, before I left Germany, I'd ordered those things, and they absolutely have to be organic. So, ordered them, and lo and behold, I come to Dubai. On the end of the first day that I'm there, getting more and more ill, all of these things are delivered by Amazon. So I had my pineapple tea, and I thought, great, I have this nourishment of wheatgrass juice. Dr. Eric Berg does a wheatgrass juice powder, which is wonderful. It's powdered juice as opposed to wheatgrass that is powdered, which is very difficult to assimilate. When your body is going through a recovery and restorative process, you really need to give it as many things that are already pre-processed so that the digestive system doesn't have to struggle so much. It can literally process out toxins that are leaving your body. And I was doing stuff to get pathogens and all of that to be destroyed much faster. So I had wheatgrass juice powder, I had the spirulina, and I had chlorella. And that really helped. Now, when I started doing that, I thought, okay, automatically with what I'm going to be doing, my kidneys are going to be very well supported. They will get flushed out. What if I take on a liver flush to support my liver? And it felt like such a wonderful, logical decision. And I did that. I thought, okay, I have 7 days. I'll be recovered within 4 days. So it's just another 3 days. So I'm going to go ahead and do a liver flush. So I started the liver flush protocol as well. I'm glad I did it, but it's not for the faint-hearted at all. If you've done a liver flush, it's a huge undertaking to take it on. But I'm glad I did it because at that point in time, I wasn't leaving the house. I was at home completely. So that's how I supported myself because I knew the spirulina, all of those things were important for my body, great for the pancreas, wonderful for the stomach. Spleen, however, doesn't necessarily like cold stuff. What makes the spleen happy is warm stuff. Now, I wasn't going to make any heavy soups or anything. So spleen loves warm soups or stews and those kind of warm foods. So I decided that I was going to so the warm tea was good, that I was having the pineapple tea. And then I decided to make warm broths of different kind. And I was not going to have salt because I was going to support, when you have salt, salt also retains. So not having salt for the first 3 days was the best decision I made because it allows your body to eliminate much faster. So I did that, did not have the salt. So I needed to have broths to give them a bit of flavor. I needed to have broths that used vegetables that automatically had a bit of salt in them. So celery is rich in salt, but it can feel very bitter if you have too much celery in a broth. So celery combined with spinach and lots of tomatoes, and I can add a bit of carrot or a pumpkin to it, is great. And I would, so celery, spinach, tomatoes, and a bit of pumpkin. Just cook them up, sieve them like a broth. So you have that little bit of sweetness of the pumpkin, tanginess of the tomatoes, saltness of the celery and the spinach. So I had another flask that I would fill up with a broth. So I've invented all of these, like 5 different broths that I made, which are delicious. My favorite, by the way, is one of mushrooms. So mushrooms combined with celery, made into a broth, are also brilliant. You won't believe that it does not have salt. So natural salts were there. After the 3rd day, at this point, my fever, it took about a day and a half for the body pain to go away. No paracetamol or anything. Day and a half, body pain was gone. The headache was still there. Fever was better, but still there. It took 2.5 days for the fever to come under control. There was no fever. And then it took 4 days for the headache to completely go. But I guess that was only because the liver flush was on. So I think in 2 days, the headache would have gone, except with the liver flush, there is even more toxins being released. So it took about another 2 days for the headache to be gone. Then I just had those bouts of weakness to deal with, but that was just my body saying, stop whatever you're doing and just stay put. But I knew that, the pathogens were gone from my body, and my body was eliminating quite nicely because spleen was so beautifully serviced. My blood was getting more and more purified. So now what was happening, which is, we are still on the first virtue. Let me talk about the second. I'll continue the story there. Because I just thought, I'm going to work with all of these 4 virtues of this amazing organ, spleen. It's no accident that we were going to talk about the spleen. Preparation was already done. And lo and behold, I was not able to do it. So it's like, okay, this is a sign. I'd really have to get up close and personal and get to know this little being that we have within us. The second virtue that the spleen has is, it's called the Vishnu device. Vishnu. So there are 3 in Hindu mythology. There are 3 gods, 3 primary gods: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So Shiva is the destroyer, destroys the old so new can be birthed. Brahma is the creator, and Vishnu is the preserver. So it makes sure that the world continues to be preserved. So this game of destruction and creation can happen ongoingly and can happen in a way that actually serves uplifting quality of life on the planet. Now, in the spleen being the Vishnu device is where I understood the yin-yang balance and how vital the spleen is for that yin-yang balance. And this whole drama is playing out with me going through my own illness and then dealing with adding the liver flush to it as well. Thank God I added to it. But the yin-yang balance was just beautifully experienced by me. The spleen is the yin-yang organ that is paired with the stomach, which is the yang organ. So it is a filter of your blood. It recognizes the old debris that requires to be removed. So it removes the old, malformed, damaged blood red cells. So spleen is like, when blood flows into the spleen, it provides quality control. And your blood passed through, within the spleen, this tiny little purple organ has got a maze, a series of mazes. And one of the playgrounds that I went to with the kids in Germany, Germans are great at creating mazes, by the way, like real life, live mazes, like big big green mazes and in huge parks. And we went to a particular park because you have to always figure out what we're going to do with the kids. And we went to a park, which is a maze park. And I'm like, my God, this is interesting. It's a metaphor for something. But really what I thought it was a metaphor for life and stuff. It wasn't. It was because it was a metaphor for me to get up close and personal to my spleen, because what I saw was, how does the spleen filter? It doesn't have a sieve. You know what it has? It has a whole host of very fine mazes. The cells are structured in the form of mazes. So the blood flows through a maze of very narrow passages. And as it is moving through is where the filtering is taking place. So spleen also, as a result, it maintains the level of fluid in your body, because it has got that attunement to what level of fluid your body can cope with. Because if your body is all gunged up and it has a lot of fluid as well, it could literally burst. So it literally holds back the fluid. So all that crazy dryness that I was experiencing, by the end of the third day, the dryness just disappeared. The cuticles just became, like, my nails are looking so good. But it's like, wow, I'm doing nothing, because I wasn't going to put any moisturizer, nothing external that my body didn't recognize was going on it. I was doing this significant, detox. So automatically, I was like, wow, the fluid has started to move. Now I knew, and then I started feeling movement and into my body return as a result of what was happening there. And I mean, I was so grateful to the spleen. And as I was expressing my gratitude to the spleen, pancreas were becoming super happy. Because pancreas, it's a very happy organ. Pancreas can be in a smile phase or a frown phase. It is like a spine, or like a smile or a frown. And it is a part of the triad, though the pairing is with the stomach. So in the context of the Vishnu, the preservation part, I really traveled with my breath, with my meditation in different parts of my body where I felt the sluggishness was still there. And I simply had to just go there and I would just be. And it was as if the spleen was the elder that was holding my hand and taking my conscious awareness to different parts of my body. And I would simply be, and then it was as if I would just flow out of that particular space. And I knew that flow had returned. So this preservation quality is a very, very beautiful quality of the spleen, which means that when you work with the spleen in partnership with it, and with the spleen, you go wherever you may be feeling that discomfort. The spleen is like creates like the motherly container for your conscious attention to remain focused in that space. Because when you are going through illness, then it's difficult sometimes to keep that mental focus, because our thoughts are running, quite fast. Even though emotionally you may be still, your thoughts are very rapid, and it's difficult to find that stillness in your thought. When you go with the spleen, it's as if you feel there's someone taking care of it all. So this was the invocation of the preservation aspect of the spleen that I was working with and activating. But I have to say, it was literally like magic, the fluid part, how the fluid got restored in my body. I mean, another really crazy thing that took place was I do my blood markers once every 3 months or so. I just do it. So I've for several decades now, my vitamin D levels and vitamin B has been low. And people often say, oh, you're becoming vegan. It's much harder to get your vitamin B levels. You require meat, you require eggs and all of that. And even though I practice sun gazing and stuff, so I'm living my life, but that level of vitamin D it was like you have to take supplements for it, which I really I don't like to do as such. Now, when I'm going through all of this, I was totally not going to go into any form of tablet of any kind. The interesting thing was, I felt so good at the end of the 7th day that on the 8th day, before I left Dubai to come to India, I got my blood markers done. And my B12 and vitamin D are completely normal, like super healthy, not borderline normal, like super healthy normal. And I'm like, wow, I haven't eaten anything. I haven't gone out and sat in the sun or anything as such. But you know what happened there? It was the spleen effect, which is the spleen literally digested out all and it took out all of that stuff that was causing so much sluggishness, which meant that my cells were coping. This actually started absorbing. So all that's happened is I clearly had a nice dollop of vitamin B12 in my system. So now the cells absorbed it. They were able to, because flow was back and blood was healthier. I do a lot of work about, bringing light into you, bringing light from the center of the sun, and I live in Dubai. So even a little bit of going into the balcony and coming back and stuff, there is sunlight. And I do sun gazing. I have sunrise that happens, by the creek in front of my balcony. So that I did. I could do it from inside my bedroom. So I did that. My cells started absorbing. And that's what affected my health. My health markers are like the best they've ever been. And I've just come out of an illness with a massive infection during that. It's interesting how I do believe, and I don't have evidence to say this, but even the release of the congestion, yes, I was doing physical stuff. I did not do hot water gargles. I did not do hot water gargles. I did cold water gargles to get rid of the congestion that was already being released. I did the giving myself fever so that the congestion would start melting. The cold water gargles pull out that congestion because it flushes this whole region with blood to balance out your temperature. Which is so interesting, and so spleens became like my wonderful teacher that I was learning from, because I knew it has Shiv Shakti and Vishnu energy in it. And me, you, all of us are the essence of the creator anyway. So we are the creator within. So working with the spleen that brings in the other two divine elements was absolutely phenomenal. But remember, everything is full spectrum. So whilst I was not ignoring the physical stuff. In the past, I have just gone spiritual. This time, I was very, very consciously working on physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. But spleen was the leader, leading the pack of my actions. I took the spleen to go into my lungs to okay, you have your filtering mechanism. So clearly there's congestion. There must be some stickiness and clogginess in the lungs and the lung sac. Work with it. Used my breath to keep constantly activating and energizing it. Did the physical stuff, change what I was actually consuming, ingesting. Only stayed with liquids. And that definitely, I did have a few days where I just couldn't stop coughing because the stickiness of the top of the lungs was opening up. So I was spitting out white, sticky stuff, which happens. But it only took, a short, like a day. That's not even a whole day, a few hours. The third virtue. Oh, sorry, I'm continuing. Sunny, I'm not giving you a chance to come in at all.
No, it's all good. You're answering all my questions anyway.
Okay. So this third virtue is the innate vibration. Every organ has an innate vibration. The spleen has an innate vibration. The innate vibration, the originating intent, innate vibration gives the originating intent to the organ. The originating intent of the spleen is, it is like the crystal ball of the cosmos. So new cosmic codes, when they come into our system, they are to go into our flow systems for all of ourselves to receive them. So where do they go? They go into the spleen. The spleen, like I said, works in harmony with the stomach. It takes in what comes in, processes it, converts it into usable energy that is then released out through filtered, purified blood and fluid that is moving through your system. And that unique combo then cosmically energizes us physically, spiritually, and mentally. The stomach plays a very big role. So the food that we eat, what goes into the stomach extracts out the energetic significance that is to be passed on from these cosmic codes. It passes this energy to the spleen, and the spleen serves as the transportation manager, distributing this chi, this prana, this life force throughout our body, our mind, and our spirit. With this as its originating intent, you know, the crystal ball from the cosmos, I work with the spleen, and I've worked with it for years now. If I want to know, okay, I'm feeling there's a lot of downloads coming in, but I'm not able to decipher it, I'd really go into my spleen. And the spleen clearly removes whatever debris or sluggishness that might be there, and clarity returns. And that's because chi starts to flow, prana starts to flow through the body. The spleen plays a huge role in that. So all you have to do is just always give permission to your spleen. Bring in whatever cosmic codes are relevant for me. Continue doing the wonderful work you're doing to filter out dead stuff, debris from my blood, and allow the fluid that nourishes, nurtures, harmonizes. It's a harmonizing organ, you know? Spleen is the harmonizing organ. That is how it brings flow into us, through a state of harmony that it keeps getting us into. I'm going to complete the last virtue, and then we'll have a talk, Sunny. So, and because it does that, it takes me to the fourth virtue of the spleen, which is, what is the consequence of all of these three virtues? It is our immune system. How functional your spleen is, how good and healthy your spleen is, has a direct impact on your hemoglobin count, health of your platelets. All of everything that I have talked about up to this point in time maintains and replenishes our immune system and our immune response. The spleen produces antibodies that protect you against infection. So by me doing, giving myself fever by putting my feet all the way up to my knees in hot water for 20 minutes at a time, or doing it 3 times a day for when the fever was high. And then I did it once a day. I didn't do it every day. I just did it for over 3 days, but 2 days was 3 times. And the third day was just once. I was destroying the infection, and the spleen was really protecting me against it. So the immune system and the immune response, you can have a healthy immune system, but if your immune response is lethargic, which it can get if there's a lot of clogginess is not only, it shows up physically, but it actually can be created with your mental state, with your emotional state, with your disconnect from spirit, with the craziness, overwhelm in social dynamics. And it absolutely can be impacted by the state and health of the environment that you're in. So the immune response is affected by all of those things. It means that if your immune response is lethargic or doesn't kick in at the right time, even though your immune system may be strong, you have various autoimmune conditions that you go through. Spleen plays a huge role in restoring that. Ways in which you can strengthen the spleen: by physical foods, for example. How can you make your spleen health better with the kind of foods you eat? Vegetables would be great. Broccoli, spinach, peppers, asparagus, fruits. Bananas are great for the spleen, and nothing in excess is great, but, have it within moderation. Citrus fruits are really great. Berries are great. Apples. If you must have grains, then grains like quinoa, oats, barley, brown rice. Not wheat, but brown rice. And the other thing that I said earlier on, warm foods and drinks, usually soups, stews, broths, are great for spleen. Because your body requires less energy to digest those things. They're usually cooked or so there's a breakdown of food that has already taken place and makes the spleen very happy. It loves warming foods. With that having been said, Sunny, I'm going to bring you in to...
Thank you. Am I with you now?
Yes, you are.
So I want to thank you so much for this. And I have many, many notes. And I feel like this is one of those sessions where, for me personally, I'm going to want to get the recording and listen to it again. I feel that what you've described here for us today, and that's why I'm so glad you didn't have me interrupt, because I really didn't want to, because I felt you were in the flow and I just didn't want to interject anything. What I do feel is that the elements that you've brought in, bringing in the 3 gods, bringing in the concept of, like, what you've described is sort of I'm thinking of so many things that we go through that can be healed this way. I feel there's so many things that want to come out of my mouth at the same time. So forgive me, I'm not as articulate as normal, but I'm thinking even of like the love and the description you're saying about the spleen, as far as the warm foods, I'm thinking of many Jewish people know the old chicken soup thing from the grandma, it's that idea. When you were even describing it, I was feeling the comfort in my own body when you were describing that. I'm like, oh, that's so lovely. That's so yummy. Like as if I'm a little girl, like the spleen is our young, little sister, and we're going to just take care of her, our young little, baby. So I feel like what you've described is a way for us to heal so many things. Some people feel overweight. I know some of that's inflammation. It's getting backed up. There's so much of this flushing out. And I feel that it's such an important thing to know about all of that. And so I just want to listen to it many more times, because I feel like you have hit every element of it. The emotional part of the connection of the spleen with the liver, the gallbladder, the kidney, the what's the other one I'm forgetting? Spleen,
stomach.
Pardon me? Yes. and how they all work together, how our body is so much an ecosystem, you know, and the idea that so many illnesses that we get, and people do go to doctors, and you know, I know there's a place for that, but I just know that these ways are so much more beneficial because we're getting to the root of the matter, or the heart of the matter, as the Eagles would say. And so I did have one question or observation. When you were talking about the mazes of the spleen, would it be similar to the labyrinths that we sometimes walk?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So the spleen is made up of a labyrinth of cells.
Yeah, beautiful.
That is the way filtration takes place. And we know, you know, labyrinths can be very healing. Maze maybe is the wrong word, because maze cause a lot of confusion. Being the yin organ that it is, it's a labyrinth. Labyrinth would be the right phrase, right word to use.
Beautiful. And of course, many of us know the sacredness of walking a labyrinth and everything. And so this is what I find so fascinating about the human body. I mean, we've learned recently that the heart is actually made of spirals, much more so than just sort of four, you know, areas. I mean, understanding that our body is such sacred geometry, in each organ, and then how we all the organs play together is such a sacred geometry that's just super fun to know about.
That's what makes this the human miracle. I mean, just
Yeah.
wasn't that really crazy, that vitamin B12 for me? That was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
every time on this vitamin B thing, I keep getting, you eat this and you eat that and you eat that and you eat that. I didn't eat anything.
Well, I think that this
Normalized.
is, I mean, you described so many different ailments that I'm sure any and all of us listening and watching have had. We have close family members who have, you know, people who have high blood sugar, and then they say, oh, you must never eat salt. It's really not about that. I mean, it's really understanding again, the heart of the matter, you know, what is really going on. And then, yes, the blood is being healed, the body, the different organs can absorb and release the B12. So when the doctor takes blood, they say, oh, yay, you know, you have a lot of B12 because it's accessible. The D3 is accessible. You know, it's all meant to be accessible to all the other organs in our body. You know, they all want, or we all want, or all the goodies. And, you know, these things get sort of shut down or locked away in each little office because we don't have that flow as much as we could. We all have flow if we're listening to this, obviously. You know, we do all have flow. It's a matter of how much we're flowing, people. And by the way, I'm totally in the wind, as you can see. I'm outside sitting on a rock in Arizona and doing this with you. And so the wind is just blowing in a beautiful way. So I'm having great fun out here.
You're having the, what do I call, the wind medicine, you know?
I so am.
You're having a wind bath.
The other thing I wanted you to maybe either we can understand later, or, you know, because we may need to go, but the idea of the spleen, the cosmic codes coming through the spleen, that's something I never ever knew, and I don't even completely understand. I mean, I do, but I don't, to be totally humble.
Whatever wisdom that is required for our own upleveling, the soul takes this human form with the intention of expanding even further. And sometimes it has expanded to a particular level that it requires to. Now it sees a new vantage. And it's time to really use that, what is now being visible to us. For that, we sometimes require cosmic support. So our guardian angels call for it. And the cosmic codes get delivered. They go into the spleen.
So let me ask you a question.
The spleen does the filtration in such a way that it automatically releases those codes through the fluid systems and the blood systems. And that's where your body can absorb this cosmic wisdom. So one more thing I want to say. So there is a rise in consciousness across the planet. Even the non-believers are starting to rise. That is the flow that is taking place. cosmic waves have come in, and now it's, in however well equipped the circulatory and the um, lymphatic and the fluid systems are of people, they are starting to now actually absorb it because it's becoming more absorbable.
You keep reading my mind today. I just don't even need to talk at all. That's exactly what I was going to ask you, because it feels like lots of people are having physiological challenges here and there. I mean, and I mean, even the situation with COVID, and then now it's activating again and stuff, or whatever we want to call that. And so I was thinking when you were saying that, and about, and I was thinking, gosh, are we, because we've been talking for a bit about the fact that this is really a time for us to go to the next level in our personal lives, in our cosmic lives, in our collective lives and stuff. And what are we meant to really do? So might we find that we're going to be a little bit activated with our spleen, and we might have some congestion, or we might have some sluggishness, or, I mean, it might really be happening for a lot of us at this time.
Yeah. So get the spleen, it'll support you. That's why I think we're talking about it.
Can you please read my question on chat?
Yeah. You shared is not easy to understand. My organs, what is your guidance for me to talk and understand my organs? I'm doing medicine for my emotional and mental upliftment.
Not meditation.
Meditation, yes. Upliftment, same way physically with the organs. Please explain. I think, Asha ji, what would be helpful is to actually listen to this again, this session again, and then like the way you work, you take pieces of it. You take bit by bit and see what you can understand from that. Okay. That's the way to work with it. Take one virtue, because that's what I did. I couldn't believe that something so tiny can have so many virtues. And so lo and behold, I was given this wonderful healing crisis, and I implemented it, and that's how I've learned to assimilate it.
So
I'm also
hopefully
excuse me, Asha.
Hopefully recording will come soon.
Yes.
I do want to mention also to you guys some words that came out with Mynoo and me before, and also during it, when you were chatting about the spleen, again, being the originating intent of the spleen, and the new cosmic codes, and the harmonizing aspect of the spleen, and again, the removing of the old debris and allowing the blood to really flow, the new blood, and also the again, the harmonizing. I feel like that is really important word to have us kind of go deep with the idea of the harmonizing aspect of the spleen.
Yeah. Just listen to it again. There's so many things that are in this session, because it's an organ that nobody really talks about so much. And this is like, wow, it's a divine organ. I mean, they all are divine, but this really is the divinity in action, in a physical form in our body.
Yay. So we can heal things, guys. And I love the pineapple. I love the different, the pineapple tea I'm definitely going to do. I think that sounds amazing. And so are we at the end of our time?
Yeah, and we've gone beyond.
We have, I'm feeling that too. But I know that we're not on Facebook Live, so we're just all gathering here. So this is Sunny Chase in the wind of Arizona. Sitting on a rock and absorbing so much, and much love to all of you. And Mynoo, this is magical beyond. I'm really grateful, because I feel this is going to heal a lot of our issues, and emotionally, and get us going, because I know we all have a lot to do. Come on, guys. I know we have a lot to do. Let's get going. And so let's take this and hear this message again and activate it, do all of the protocols, or at least as many as we can do, maybe 2 or 3. And get our flow going, go in and flow, guys. And so Mynoo, much love to you. And until next time, we shall be meeting again next Thursday, and we will be at 41 of 52, right?
Yeah, we're going to focus on the liver.
Oh, good.
I haven't talked about the liver flush, but I'll talk about it then.
Very good. I was going to ask about that, but I figured
Yeah.
that it to be continued. That's our cliffhanger for next week, guys.
Thank you.
Mynoo,
Thank
are we hosting next week?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Have a great week.
much.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys. Love you all.
Love you.
Much